Hello and welcome to Microsoft Hates Greg. My name is Greg Deckler, and I suppose probably some of you are wondering, Greg, how exactly did we end up here? Right? So why is the person known for Power BI and DAX and all of that? Why am I making a video evaluating LibreOffice? Right? Funnily enough, it came out of reading this article on Medium. So it came up in my feed on Medium. I realize it's from March 8th, but it came up in my feed and it caught my attention, right? And before we get into it, Medium is a great platform, okay? I'm a member of Medium. I'm part of the partner program. All the blog articles that I write these days are published exclusively on Medium. I moved all of my previous articles that were on Microsoft platforms to Medium after Microsoft and the other AI firms pirated my books, right? I was happy to give away my knowledge for free for decades, but pirating the books, that actually get compensated for and people buy those, that it goes beyond betrayal. So that's why I moved all my articles onto Medium. Everything new that I write is on Medium because Medium actually respects authors. They're very stringent around AI generated stories, right? They won't promote those at all, take them off their platform. They respect authors. They respect author accreditation, author compensation, right? So, and that's moving those articles off of like the community site on Power BI community site. That's where I got in that dust up with Adam Saxton, where, he got all pissy and threatening with me, right? And also, took me, banned me from the super user program because he's just that petty of a little bitch, right? So anyway, so I moved everything off of LinkedIn as well. Nobody there was threatening or hostile to me like Adam Saxton was, but everything's on Medium now. And so I was reading Medium, this came up in my feed, right? So more EU countries ditching American cloud services. And this thing caught my eye. And number one, it's one of those things where I'm thinking, well, how? So if they're ditching American cloud services like Microsoft, how's that going to affect things like Microsoft Fabric, right? Because it's part of Azure and stuff like that. So, and it turns out it's not really going to affect it at all, I don't think, because all of the major cloud providers and all of the major platforms that provide data analytics as a platform, right? Snowflake, Databricks, and Microsoft are all, Google, AWS, right? They're all American companies, right? That provide these cloud services and particularly data analytics platforms. So, that's what really piqued my interest at initially. But the central premise of this, and it's by Burke, you should read the article. It's a good article. There's some similar articles out there as well on it, coverage on it. But it basically, the central premise is this, right? So the U.S. Cloud Act essentially, it doesn't matter if servers are in Frankfurt or Dublin, where they are. If the company is an American company, U.S. authorities can get access to the data. They can request it and they can get access to the data. And Microsoft was like, they were hauled in front of some foreign government, and they were forced to admit this, right? And so this is what kicked off a bunch of this in terms of sovereign clouds and things like that. And now Microsoft and AWS and Google, they're like creating these sovereign clouds that are European only, but they still can't get around the U.S. Cloud Act, right? So these companies essentially are going to LibreOffice, Linux, and these other open source alternatives, Open Exchange for Outlook and that sort of thing. There's also Nextcloud or Next something or whatever. It's like a OneDrive, but it's European oriented. So you can actually replicate the Microsoft Office experience and OneDrive / SharePoint and Outlook and that stuff with all like basically European based systems, open source and cloud providers based in like France and Germany and that sort of thing. So that's what really came out of this. But so what caught my eye is in this article they kind of detail that like they're moving hundreds of thousands of Microsoft Office accounts onto LibreOffice, and they're saving literally millions of euros doing this. So it got me thinking, because I had evaluated LibreOffice, like it's got to be over a decade ago, and I was like, boy, this thing is garbage. Right? Was my initial impression of it. So I'm like, so it got me interested. I'm like, is it better today than it was when I guess a decade or more has passed? Maybe I should take a look at it. So I downloaded it, I took a look at it, and this is going to be my explanation of the good, the bad, and the ugly with LibreOffice, right? So let's get into it. So the first thing I did was I wanted to evaluate LibreOffice with a complex Word document. And the most complex Word document that I've done recently is my book, DAX for Humans, right? And I've been working with Microsoft Office and in particular with Word and Excel for over 30 years. I'm not much of a presentation, PowerPoint kind of guy, but Word and Excel, I feel I am pretty competent in. And I use a lot of some of the complex features, especially for things like an entire book, DAX for Humans, right? Because when you're writing a book, you have to have alternating margins, that on this, in terms of, because the way the book is bound, you have to have alternating margins go back and forth. You have to use things like an index. I don't know how many people have actually used an index within one of their documents, or use the where you can upload word list and that sort of thing. And so there's a lot of features that you use when you're publishing a book that probably a lot of people don't use in Word, right? Because you don't have to. Like, Word's perfectly capable of doing lots of stuff. Over the years, I've done mail merges, I've done all kinds of stuff in Word. Probably use more features in Word than the vast majority of people have. Even simple things like you can hold down the Alt key and select a rectangular section of text, right? Probably there's a lot of people that don't know you can do that in Microsoft Word. So I've used a lot of the features. So I wanted to see what would happen if I opened up DAX for Humans in LibreOffice, and I have to say, not terrible. Better than I expected. I did have to do things like, I think I was using Aptos Display for some of this stuff. It came up in some weird default font, and this is like Palantino Linotype. I had to import a few fonts. In terms of the ones that they just worked in Word. I had to go find those fonts in my font cache and then right click on them and install them. Right, I had to do a few things like that, but overall it came out really good. Now, not everything came out perfect, right? So, for example, if I scroll down here and get to the same place. Yeah, so like, for example, like, not all the chapter headers, but some of the chapter headers got kind of messed up. Like, it shows here, but doesn't show here. I don't know why. There's other places like like where I get down to chapter two. Chapter two came out okay, and it looks good. But I think if I go to chapter three, there's some, yeah. So chapter three got a little messed up. This isn't quite right. It's shifted over. I don't know why LibreOffice, like, sometimes it got it and sometimes and then it's in there twice. But overall, it generally did okay. Like, here's the different margin, right? So the margins is spaced on this side, every alternating one, but it didn't get it completely. So like in the table of contents section and this section, like this section's fine, but table of contents, it's messed up. So, but overall, I mean, on an extremely complex document, it did probably got 95% of it, right? I'd have to go back and clean it up and stuff. Now, would I use it to publish my next book? I probably wouldn't, just because I'm so familiar with Microsoft Word, and typesetting is such a pain in the ass, even with knowing the tool as well as I do. I'd have to relearn too much stuff on LibreOffice. But the fundamental question is, could you publish something as complex as a book in LibreOffice, what they call it, Write, or text, or whatever writer? Yes, you absolutely could, in my opinion. And overall, when I'm going through this, I use the tab menu layout, which I think emulates this much better. So if you're familiar with the way the Microsoft Office ribbon works, I would go, when you're doing the install, I'd go with the tab setup for that. Then it's not bad at all. So, I mean, these are the good parts, right? I was able to find things that I use a lot, like Navigator. So it does have Navigator. It's nice. It's a little bit, maybe a little bit different in terms of, it actually has even perhaps more functionality. So, for example, if I go to navigation pane, right, I just basically get, here it is. I can get pages that has like results, but the headings. So this actually has your headings, right? So there's all my headings, which is that Navigator. But I also have broken down by sections, by bookmarks, by images, right? I mean, that's pretty cool. And even better than what's in Microsoft Word by default, right? I don't know if there's features that you can turn on the navigation page, but they're all right there. And I really like the navigation page. I've used that more and more, just to be able to quickly, especially helps with a document this size, right? I can quickly jump between, chapter to chapter or whatever, and get to where I want to go. So I would say, in terms of that, I really like that aspect of LibreOffice. I mean, it seems to be fairly equivalent in terms of feature functionality, and that's saying something because Microsoft Word has a ton of features in it, right? All right, so then the next one was, and this, so maybe some of you guys noticed this in one of my previous videos, when I was going through trying to figure out like how many customers are Microsoft Fabric really, right? I was actually using LibreOffice. I just kind of snuck that in there as an Easter egg to kind of foreshadow this video. But I even did something where this isn't the most complex. This is a Microsoft Fabric a capacity planning worksheet I put together for. There was a pack workshop I did a little while back. It's not the most complex, but it's got some sophistication to it in terms of doing calculations between sheets and all kinds of stuff, and you can enter all this information, and it goes out through and calculates. Not the most complex one I've ever done in my life, but more complicated than your average bear, right? And it seems to handle it just fine. I haven't really, it's got the full formula language, in terms of it's got macros. VBA, you're going to run into some issues with, in terms of complex VBA and things like that. But yeah, for the most part, absolutely can handle it. There's Impress, which is their version of PowerPoint. So this is a lesson plan from Learn Power BI, Chapter 8. And this is a pretty basic PowerPoint, but it's got, again, going through, it's got all the same sorts of features that I was able to find within PowerPoint, right? It's got the same kind of features. The one that was probably the most disappointed was with Draw. So this is a Visio presentation that it's a little weird that it's in these pages. You scroll through the pages versus them being tabs. That's a little odd. But this one was the most disappointed in. I would like, how would I recreate this using Draw? Because I use Visio when I write my books to do all my annotations and do all kinds of, mark up my images and my screenshots and things like that. And I spent some time with the tool, and I really couldn't figure out how I could do something as simple as like this curved arrow. And maybe I'm just missing it in the tool, and it's like, oh, Greg, this is how easy it is to do that. But I really couldn't find, and it doesn't really have the same like shapes, default shapes that I can kind of like the way Visio does. I have kind of a love-hate relationship with Visio, but it tends to scratch that itch in terms of it's not, heavy-handed or overkill, like trying to use like Affinity Photo or something like that. It's just kind of that nice middle ground. I found it really useful for doing lots and lots of diagrams and that sort of stuff over the years. So I was a little disappointed because I saw when I was installing it that like, hey, you can make it the default program for Visio. I'm like, holy crap, they got like a Visio equivalent in here. That's cool. I wouldn't call it a Visio equivalent. It's sort of a hacky drawing program. That's what I'll say about it. So they also have a database tool like a Microsoft Access. I didn't use that because I disavowed the Access databases for a long time. So I'm not gonna propagate those, and I'm not gonna create LibreOffice Access databases. Not gonna do that to myself or those who come after me. Right? It's not fair to them. So now all right. So there are a couple things in terms of things that I didn't like about LibreOffice and things that they could absolutely do better. Number one is this is god awful, right? In terms of, there's one in particular. Let me see if I can find it. Maybe on home. Yeah, where is it? I can't think of where it is, but it's like there was one in particular. Was it file? No. Home. Maybe it was on the other one. Anyway, it's stuff like this. It's like, why is the tooltip under my mouse? Why can't, like, I have to, like, what is that first letter? It's insert, right? It's like, and there's some that you go on and it's like you can't read the word at all. And I just, to me, this is just, it's like classic open source where they add all this feature functionality. They just miss the little things, right? The UI and the way it looks and how good it looks or doesn't look, right? As equivalent, like if I scroll over here, if I focus on it first, and I do over here, then like it actually recognizes, like, developers of LibreOffice take this to heart, right? It's not difficult to get the mouse coordinates and how big the mouse is, and then make sure that your damn tooltip is underneath that. So you don't have the tooltip, your mouse hiding the damn tooltip, right? People, it's just not difficult. You can code this. I guarantee it. Of all the other shit that you've coded, that should not be difficult to do. Okay? Just get that done for me and I'll be much happier with it. The other thing is that obviously this ribbon kind of sucks. As far as here's the thing, I swear to God, it's like the only people that want to give away their work for free are like these nerd ass developers, right? Everyone else, every other occupation, they actually want to get paid for what they do. So like that's why all FOSS applications and stuff suck in terms of the UI, because graphic designers and UI design specialists, they don't want to give their work away for free. So that's why you have these shitty icons right here. These are the worst. I just look at the difference between these icons and like just how bad they look in comparison to Microsoft Word. And this is across all the different programs. It's like you need to make your ribbon bigger, okay, folks? And you need to actually find a graphic artist who's at least just mid at like icon creation and get them to overhaul all your damn icons because it's ugly ass shit and you just need to fix it. Okay. This would make this so much more enjoyable to work with your program if it actually looked like not this dog pile of you know what. So anyway, fix the UI, people. Again, not difficult stuff to do. You guys have done a lot of amazing work from what I can see, at least over the past decade compared to when I evaluated it the first time. Clean it up, guys. All right. So the other thing I didn't like about this was that even though during the install, I specifically did not check the boxes to make them the default programs, it made them the default programs for like DocX and XLX and SLX and that sort of stuff. So that kind of stuff. So I had to go back and reset all my default programs. So not happy about that, but not the end of the world, I suppose. So yeah, I mean, overall, it seems like it's come a long way. Just these icons, I'm like, I just can't get over just how bad they are. Just you can see the jaggedness of them and everything. It's just it's so bad, right? Oh yeah, here we go. Look at that. -2. What was -2 mean? I have no idea. I can't see it. All right. So I mean, could I see though? Here's the thing. So I think about this from a corporate, like I'm a global, firm. I've got tens of thousands of seats of employees, right? Or even hundreds of thousands of employees, right? Could I see 95% of them being able to use LibreOffice, right? And get rid of my Microsoft Office, subscriptions and save millions of dollars, potentially tens of millions of dollars a year. Yeah, I could see it. It's to the point where it is a reasonable alternative to Microsoft Office and the tools there. And Microsoft Office, right? They read the open document formats that LibreOffice creates, and LibreOffice can open up, Microsoft Office documents. Is it 100%, conversion ratio perfect every time? No, with complex documents and things like that. If you have really really complex VBA macro, VBA and macros and things like that, you're probably going to run into some problems. Not every formula function works exactly identically. But, for 95% of your users, and you'd only license it for the 5% that need it and save yourself millions of dollars a year. Yeah, I could actually see it. It's possible. I actually see it if they would just clean up the UI. And put a little effort into the design, right? It would go a long way to like I could see myself using it more and more. And I'm going to leave it installed. I'm going to try to use it for new things that I create. See what I can see what I can determine. Maybe I'll make a later video on it some other time. But yeah, I mean, it's the good is it's pretty good. The bad is it's pretty ugly, right? So there you have it. The good, bad, and the ugly LibreOffice. It's one of the better FOSS applications attempts that I've seen out there. So, and it seems to be becoming extremely popular with the Europeans. So maybe they'll actually donate and they'll actually have some money going into it where you can hire a damn graphic designer. Okay, guys, and then put some money into that and make it good. All right. That's all I had for this video. Hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time.